And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our show, Deborah Kobylt Live. And I'm honored to present two extraordinary women, Terry Hyman Hamermesh and Cecelia Feiler, who are the co-founders of WOW, the Mental Health Summit 2023. And WOW stands for Wisdom of Wellness. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. There's a lot to talk about today throughout our interview. Thank you.
Yeah.
So happy to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, extraordinary work you're doing, I have to say. And I'd like you to explain to our audience, what is WOW, who will be speaking, and what initiated this, please?
Well, before we get into the details of the actual summit that's happening, I'm just going to tell you who's behind it and what our mission is. And then I'll let Terry kind of review what's about to happen on May 4th. We are both on the UCLA Resnick Neuropsychiatric Board of Advisors. That is the inpatient hospital at UCLA, one of the only inpatient hospitals left in our city, unfortunately. We also are partner with the Friends of Semel Advisory Board, which is all under the umbrella of the neuropsychiatric department at UCLA. We have all come together to, as a collective mission, to destigmatize mental health, to see mental health as whole health, that if you want to really look at your whole health, you have to include mental health. There shouldn't be any shame or blame behind it. It's like any other health issue you face. We need to take care of it because we are in a mental health crisis. So we need to be actively working as a community to deal with our mental health and not be scared of it. So that being said, our board was founded 10 years ago to support this particular cause. And now we have 25 board members, and we're actively working to destigmatize it and also to raise money for our research to come up with new cutting edge solutions to our mental health crisis. So that's who we are. And I'm going to let Terry tell you about our upcoming summit, which I think is part of what we do every year to accomplish that mission.
First of all, go ahead.
I just want to say, people, we're not alone, right? Mental health that's a big phrase, right? We're not alone. And so many of us face mental health issues in a variety of different ways. And you are addressing so much of that at all various ages, right? The teenagers, moms, grandmoms, and granddads, right? This is for men and women. And it's for young and old. This is extraordinary. You've expanded since you started your first WOW Summit, which is wonderful. I love the growth involved. So go ahead, Terry, please tell us about the summit.
Deb, do you mind if I jump in and just give you some numbers since you brought it up? I mean,
please.
Truly, like 1 in 5 adults experience some kind of mental health issue. 1 in 20, a serious mental health issue. And in our youth, 1 in 6 between the age of 6 years old and 17. And it's sad to say, as young as 6. And now suicide is the second leading cause of death for our teenagers.
Number 2.
So I just want your audience to understand the level of the crisis we're talking about, and that really there is no one that is not being touched by this issue. So
most importantly, these are just American statistics.
Yeah.
This is a global issue right now. And we are in crisis as a global community, not just an American community.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Are others around the globe talking about this? Because I know in America here, we are comfortable with discussing our mental health, although it wasn't always the case, right? This is sort of something that's become, people are talking about more, even within the last 5 or 10 years, and particularly since the pandemic. Right. But do you find that you're getting other people from other countries also participating in this talk?
Absolutely. A couple of years ago, we went to the Global Health World Conference in London to make sure that everyone in every country was on the same page that we were, and that we are on the same page that they are. And we're proud to say that we're all on the same page and trying to attack this problem hand in hand.
I think you can look at the royals in Britain. They, William and Kate have made mental health one of their top priorities. Yeah. So it's something that I think is in the narrative of a majority of countries. Now, that being said, there are still countries around the world, just like they don't respect human rights, they do not respect the rights of those who have mental health issues. And so there still is countries where there's deep stigma around it, and people are in horrific crisis and not allowed to, and are punished for having a mental health issue. So we have to, it's global, but there's still those countries that refuse to join this narrative.
And our most important takeaway is don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to a friend, a cousin, a neighbor, a relative. If you can't get help professionally, reach out to somebody and say,
to them.
I need help. I need to talk to you. Do you have time?
We were speaking off camera a little bit about sort of that family unit or friend unit has sort of disappeared a little bit in this country, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we just feel like we're going at it alone, right?
Yes.
And I know that you're also going to be talking about this at the summit. How do we bring that back a little bit? How do we bring back that feeling that we're not in this alone? Actually, Terry, can you talk a little bit about the summit, some of the speakers? It's actually absolutely extraordinary.
That's part of exactly accomplishing that. The summit is to bring people together and for friends to be in the room together and talking about this. So I'll let her review the summit.
One of our, I feel, great accomplishments is to build a community here. And what's so important that we want to pass on is to teach people how to build their own community, whether it be a community of 2 or a community of 200. It doesn't matter. People need to reach out and people need to come together. On May 4th, we will be having 1,800 people of all ages come together to
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that many people. I've got to get there early. So go ahead.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we will have a summit of Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the Surgeon General, and he's very, very passionate about mental health with children of all ages, but mostly teenagers. And we have Jeanie Buss, as we've discussed, is very involved. Well, she's the owner of the Lakers, but she's very involved with mental health and has brought mental health to her players and make sure that they are on keel and feel supported throughout, not only throughout their season, but 24/7 throughout their entire career.
Can I just say one thing and interrupt there? Because I've interviewed her. She's really incredible. I remember when she was first bringing mental health as part of the entire wellness program for the players, people were like, what? Yeah. But it made an effect. It had a tremendous effect. She did something extraordinary. To your point, you told me earlier, she was one of the first to do this and bring this to a sports team, and it's been quite successful. So,
and the NHL, the NFL, everybody has followed suit, which is wonderful because all of these players go on the road and they miss birthday parties and they miss funerals and they miss anniversaries and they miss their families. And going back to the community that you're talking about, they miss their community. And they need support along the way. So
let's talk about some of the other speakers. I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
We are honored and lucky enough to say that we have Oprah for the day. She will be our moderator for the day. And we are blessed to say that she will be interviewing everybody.
Well, let me say, she will be in conversation with the Surgeon General. She will be in conversation with students. We're going to have a student panel from UCLA talking about the very real things they're experiencing and the kinds of
in real time
things that are working and the way that they're seeking out help. She will also be in conversation with Arthur Brooks from Harvard, who
talks about happiness.
And he's written, I think, about 12 books.
30.
Is it 30?
30, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then lastly, we have...
He's a best-selling author.
Yeah, we have Jon Batiste coming in, who is,
an Academy Award and Grammy Award winning singer, producer, writer, performer. We're out of our minds. We feel so lucky and so blessed. And how lucky are we? We are going to have Lisa Kudrow as our hostess with the mostest. She's on our Resnick board, and she is so generous. She's a champion
around mental
of
health.
Mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to remind people about Oprah. She's someone who's been very outspoken about her own issues, which I think is beautiful. You know, we're not talking about a well-known person showing up to host this. We're talking about someone who's been there, who has struggled herself. And I respect her so much for being so vocal about that, because we have to know that we're not alone. None of us are alone in whatever struggle it is that we're experiencing. And some, yes, more serious than others, because I believe, right, there's some statistics that you presented to me at one point, the Pew study, if you have that in front of you, I'm not sure. I have the stats that you, you gave them to me.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. If you want to just say them out loud, I don't have those in front. I have other ones as well, but yeah.
Yeah, 22% of high school students have considered taking their life. 18% have attempted. That's big. And as Terry said earlier, it's a number 2 cause of death for our teens. We are in a crisis, people. Yeah. We're also in a crisis with old people, as you also mentioned, loneliness. Yeah. And I like that you're there to help us figure out how to create that community. You know, that's very important, because since COVID, a lot of us, a lot of my nucleus has disappeared. People have moved, people taken off, people have died. Yeah. And I too sometimes look around and say, oh, there's nobody here. And I'm not even sure, right, how to create that again. So I don't think we're alone in this. And I love that you're doing this. So thank you.
Yes. Well, what's so wonderful about this particular summit is that it will reach out. It will be filmed. And last year it reached out to 8.2 million people. And this year we hope even more. But our age range will range from high school students all the way up to, I think our oldest attendee will be 90. Yeah. So we want our community to grow so that our stigma can lessen and lessen at every age.
And Deb, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we have brought in from around the city 120 high school students for free to sit in, and hoping they'll go back and be ambassadors at their high schools to really work with the kids at that age around mental health. And we're going to have it open to around 500 UCLA students for free. We have our doctors who are in med school. We have nurses. We have, the large health community coming to the summit. So we're creating a lot of partnerships around this.
Yeah.
However, having said that, this is a fundraiser.
Yes. Yeah. It is a fundraiser. Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. We're looking to raise money so that we can spread our wealth to mental health people who want to reach out to their families, to all that struggle and all that are affected in every way, shape, and form, so that we can help on every level.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we keep jumping in, but I have to bring up that
we're just excited.
Yeah, we excited and proud of UCLA. Yes. I mean, UCLA bought the hospital in the mid-city area and is making that into a full mental health and behavioral science center. That's huge.
Right. I want to say something. You just took the words out of my mouth, because when Terry said, this is a fundraiser, you're right. And I wanted to say, look what we're raising money for, right? I believe that UCLA bought the Midway Hospital, right? And they're going to be, hopefully by 2026, turning that into a full mental health hospital. That is a lot, because we don't have that. The Resnick facility is an inpatient, right? Is that correct? It's inpatient. Is it?
And it will have outpatient. It'll have
both.
It'll have inpatient, a partial, which is an outpatient program for people who are there all day but do not sleep over, and then a traditional outpatient program. And it will also have a designated emergency room, which I cannot even tell you how important that is. If police, social workers, whoever, family members bring somebody to the emergency room, they're not going to be waiting 8 hours in a waiting room while that person is escalating in their mental health crisis. They will be triaged right away, get a response team, and be getting help as immediately as they walk into those doors.
And properly triage, somebody who has been trained in mental health if somebody is in a mental health crisis, but there's a heart attack in front of them, a stabbing, a shooting, some sort of horrible accident, the mental health patient will be put on the back burner, so to speak.
In the traditional emergency.
In the traditional emergency room.
Right.
But in an emergency hospital, such as this Midway hospital that will be called the Resnick Hospital, I believe.
Yeah.
But it will be UCLA. They will be treated immediately and properly with trained physicians that know how to treat them and triage them immediately.
Yeah.
Before we go too far,
24/7.
before we go too far into our interview, can you please tell people how they can donate? We'll repeat that throughout the interview and at the end, please.
Yeah.
Well, we have a website. It is the WOW website, which you will be putting up, and there is a QR code. You can put your phone up to the QR code, and it'll be on your website also.
Yeah. Okay. On your website. Yes. Beautiful.
And on your website.
Yeah. And that,
yes,
and the money,
of course.
All the money that we're raising is going directly to research for doctors, improving our treatment quality, the things that are going to really turn this crisis around.
Let me ask you, the amount of anxiety and depression, has it increased in our society, or is it just that we're talking about it more? Because I am grateful that we're talking about it more so we don't feel alone. But is it on the rise? And if so, what is happening? Because I know for myself, I'm in the news business, right? Sometimes I just got to turn it off. It's too much. And that raises my anxiety, and I have to work with it every day. What is it that people are dealing with? Is it the social media? Is it everything? Would you please tell us?
Yes, it's a very real thing. The increase of anxiety and depression, and the increase of loneliness in our world, which is kind of like feel counterintuitive. We have so many ways through technology to connect, but that's not real connection. And it's actually making people feel more isolated and lonely, and feel that fear of missing out. That's a big trigger for a lot of people, particularly our youth. There's also the pressure, now you see in real time what's going on in our world and what other people are accomplishing. It creates more stress and pressure, and people feel like they're not doing enough. And that leads to more anxiety and leads to more depression. That's all very real. That's not just because we're talking about it. That is happening in our community and world right now, and particularly coming out of the pandemic.
Yes, the pandemic was a huge problem. One side of the pandemic was, of course, the isolation that everybody felt. But second to that, a lot of people lost their jobs. People lost their homes. People lost their will to join a community. They lost the isolation and their fear to go out into the world.
Yeah.
They lost their social skills. They lost their social connection. And even more importantly than that, they lost their, how do I say this?
Well, I think they felt coming out of the pandemic, people feel very fragile.
Yes.
There is a reality, particularly with our young people, that bad things happen. I think if you talk to young people, they will talk pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. It's kind of like the generation of young people that experienced 9/11. That trauma created a sense of fragility and a reality that bad things happen in our world. And so you have people coming out of the pandemic who are realizing the fragility of life, their world, and young people feeling very scared about the world they're in.
Well, and also our children, I'm sorry. Our children also have, the feedback I've gotten is that they lost a lot of hope. Oh, why bother? I didn't even get to have graduation. I graduated in my backyard, or I didn't even get to go to prom, or they missed a lot of milestones. They didn't get to have their wedding. They had their wedding on Zoom. They missed a lot of hopeful occasions that usually earmark the great things of life that you get to share with your community and your family and your loved ones. And a lot of people missed out on those things, and their heart hurt because of it.
How do we help those people? How do we help all of us, feeling that way? Because you're right. My son, the one that who went to school with your daughter, Terry, he still never got his graduation. from Berkeley, right? And he's just moved on. But I think it might have hurt on the inside, but he won't talk about it. But how do we help people who really are struggling with what they lost? Is it through individual therapy? I mean, what? Because sometimes the world of therapy. I think you have to
acknowledge the loss. I think it's a genuine loss.
Yeah.
Whether it be my nephews who graduated in their car and they handed a diploma to them in their car with
high school.
In high school. Or my daughter and your son who graduated in our backyard through Zoom. You know, it's a loss. It's a milestone that you missed out on, but there'll be many more milestones to come, and you have to acknowledge it, and you have to say to your loved ones, your friends, your community, you know what? I'm sorry I missed it, but let's make up for it, and let's come together, and let's be a community, and let's celebrate each other in the way that we can.
So I like that. Let's celebrate each other in the way that we can, because it's almost like if we talk about it too much about the hurt, we have to move on from it, right? And find those tools, whatever those tools are. I'm not an expert. And that's what I know that you help so many people with, those tools. Go ahead. Cece, you were going to say something.
I want to say, because I think there's different levels of the mental health struggle. So I think it's like there are some people that this could be a valuable experience where they do learn resilience and learn, you know, yes, I missed out, but I can be okay and move on. I think what Terry said, giving those people the opportunity just to acknowledge the loss, not to discount it, but also move on. Then there are those people who are really having a mental health crisis. All the losses are too big. They need to reach out to some place in their community. It could be, if they're associated with a religious organization, go to that religious leader, say, I'm in crisis, if that's where they feel safe. If it's with their family, if it's going to a mental health professional, you know, I think you have to acknowledge that the place where you are in the spectrum of the mental health struggle determines what you need to do. We do need, and what we are creating at UCLA is we're right now in a shortage of mental health professionals. So we need more of those. And we are, you know, fully recruiting and getting more people trained, getting more people of diverse backgrounds, because in our colors of our communities of color, their rate of suicide is higher, and we need more.
And astronomical.
Yeah, we need more, and their mental health issues are rising. And we need people that are trained, that people feel comfortable with and can relate to, because that's part of what works in helping people in this struggle. And I think you brought up the idea of needing, or you, Terry, the idea of needing community. Isolation is the worst thing to do with a mental health issue. You may not feel like you want to get out, but getting out, just getting out, can change that moment.
Yes.
So we need those relationships. That's why I said either going to your religious center, friends, wherever you can go first to connect and say, I'm in a crisis, and then have them help you determine, do I need more help? Do I need to go to a professional? Do I need a bigger, you know, solution? Do I need medication? Not to be scared of it. You know, there's solutions.
If you have a thyroid problem, you go on thyroid medicine. If you're a diabetic, you take diabetes medicine, heart medicine, whatever medicine you need. You have no problem reaching out and saying, can I have some help? I don't feel so great. What can I do to make myself feel better?
Yeah. So if I have a bipolar issue, no shame. Let me get the medication. Let me be working with my regular doctor that they know, and working in combination with my specialist. Just like if you're a diabetic or you have a thyroid issue, you have your specialist who's working with your regular doctor. If you have a mental health issue, work with your psychologist, your psychiatrist, have a team, work together, and have that resolution to another health issue.
And by the way, there's teams that are built in every country. They have a famous bench in Africa, and there's benches all over Africa that the elderly sit on, and people come and talk to them because they are the wise ones. And children and people of all ages come to talk to the elderly, and that's how they get help. And there's benches that they go and sit to. That's such a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah.
And it's not a trained professional, but it's a wise person. They've lived through it.
That's a funny thing, because in this country, we don't do that so much. You know that, I love the women in particular speaking out. I love talking about Andy McDowell, okay, and letting her hair go. She's quite stunning.
Beautiful gray hair.
Yeah.
And let me see if I could do it in her accent. She said, "I'm getting old. I don't want." You like that, huh?
Yeah.
I don't need to be talking about my hair. You don't talk about George Clooney's hair. She goes, and I want to embrace where I am about being old. I've got a lot to teach people. And that's so true. And this country is not about that so much. I know where my family comes from, right? It's like the older person is really respected. And here, I just don't think it's as much. And we've got to change that dialogue as well. Okay. Well, and when you go ahead.
No, what Terry said, and I think we all can talk about this. Grandparents used to be an integral part of the raising of children.
Oh, absolutely.
My mother from Eastern Europe, her grandmother raised her, lived in the house, took care of her, talked to her. That wisdom and that sense of not feeling alone and that sense of community was a very real part of the way the world was. And it is not the way the world is. So it's an issue.
Yes. And one of the reasons why we started WOW was because of exactly what you just said, is people are craving education, they're craving knowledge, they're craving community, and they're craving, as we are younger to an older age, we're craving expanding our universe so that as we grow older, that we can expand with our world and change with our world, along with our world, so that we feel relevant and keep up to speed and don't get isolated.
That is very, very important. Let me talk to you a little bit about something. I had a friend call me, true story, and she has a daughter in college, and an absolute crisis. This went on about a week ago. And she said, "Deborah, where should I go? I need to call someplace." So I want to talk about specifically the work that UCLA does for someone like her. She comes in with her daughter and it's at a critical point. Tell us what she can do, how I can guide somebody into that direction to helping them. So let's talk specifics about the good work being done over there.
So if it's a UCLA student, I don't know if this person is, but
no.
UCLA is very unique in this way. They have made depression on their mission statement one of their number one grand challenges. So for a student at UCLA, they can walk into the Student Health Center. They could go over to the Resnick Hospital. There would be somebody there, a frontline person, that could help assess what is really going on. Are they in a crisis? Like, is this a suicidal person? Because if that is, that's a very different track that needs to happen. They need to be hospitalized. If it's somebody struggling with a serious like mental health issue, it may be then partnering, getting them a therapist, getting them once a week counseling, and possibly short-term medication that they may need. So I think it really is that first walking in, look at even other campuses. I can't speak to all of them because not all the schools have the kind of student health center we have. Going to your student health center on a college campus, I would say, is probably the first place to go, because they will have professionals there that can make an assessment. They may not have the counselors on staff, but they'll know people in the community. Because if you're not living in LA, that's why I said, is this a UCLA student? If you're not living in LA, you need to find a psychologist that is close by, because
sorry to interrupt you. They live in LA. The daughter is, on the East Coast in school, and they were bringing them back. And then she called said, "Deborah, I don't know where to start." And I said,
"Start at UCLA."
That's what I said to her. Start at UCLA, because they've got these cutting edge programs there. They're working. They've got the research. They're staffing up to help people like your daughter. And that's what I said to her. So thank goodness I put her in the right
UCLA, direction. And I will tell you, we have, and this is not the only young person. I get these calls all the time, and we can offline talk a little bit more in depth about where to go. UCLA has, particularly for young people, targeted programs, OCD programs, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, so they have staff and they have, I'm going to call their residents, who are doing specific fellowships, some that we funded, proud to say, on research for young people to help them right now. So we can talk offline, because I will tell you where your friend should call. But UCLA is always a good place if you're in LA to make that call. I would also suggest, the magazine Psychology Today, believe it or not, they list therapists around the country that you can look at least to call. And I would say pretty much they have a good list, a strong list. So if you're not in LA, which it's harder for someone like me to give recommendations, that's a place to go. But if you're a college student out of state, walk into your student health center first stop.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Now I want to switch up a little bit. When Terry and I first met, we were stuffing spiders in our children's kindergarten class, right? And it was just think Lucy and Ethel, because we had to speed it up. And
talk about high anxiety, by the way.
Oh my! But it was a moment that I think we were bound together from that moment. Just stuffing those was tremendously stressful. I have to tell you, I didn't want to disappoint any.
There's
any
8 legs in a spider, okay?
Right, and half of my legs with 16 legs. I'd have a spider, but I'm thinking back to that moment, and it made us laugh, right? And this was a while ago, probably 21 years ago. And back then, we didn't have, I don't believe, the iPhones where we're always on it, right? Back then, we had engagement where we were laughing. And what do we do to get kids, all of us, off of social media so that it's toxic? It has become toxic. I try to only have on my social media, but I'm an adult, what I need, right? Such as WOW and organizations that will benefit me and friends that I care about. But a lot of young people don't do that, right? It's not the same as it was 21 years ago when we were stuffing those spiders. Life has changed. So what do we do to help see people through that whole social media thing that's happening?
Deb, there's now, and I want to make 2 comments really quickly. One is the bonding that you and Terry had as mothers, which is a whole issue psychologically too. That support is part of what everyone needs at every different stage in their life. So that beautiful moment that you're saying, we laugh together, that's the kind of thing everyone needs. There is research now, it's just been released, that TikTok, Instagram, they have algorithms that target how to create in our young people to release those endorphins that addict them to the media. So we have to get our kids off the phone. There are thinkings and thoughts that maybe these companies need to, for whatever a certain age, your phone is shut off automatically. You cannot go on your phone past 6 o'clock. We may have to implement just sort of a global way we handle it, because it's such a battle. I'm sure you went through this with your son, and because of knowing the age of your kids, the battle to pull that phone away, and just to disconnect them from what they thought is their friend group is hard. And so we're going to have to find ways.
And we were lucky because in the early days of our children's childhood, we didn't have phones. We didn't have screens. So we were lucky that we didn't have that to pull them away. They had play dates. They were on teams. They were, connected. In Girl Scouts, they were connected.
Yeah.
But even as young adults, my kids, I will say, are not those people. And I'll tell you why. They have big interests in things. If one would be baseball, they're all into that. Or one might be, at their work. Like I, in that way, I didn't do anything. I didn't say, you can't go on this. They just naturally didn't gravitate toward it.
Yes.
But that's not the norm, right? So I am concerned about what we can do. And I believe you're going to be discussing that also at the summit, right?
Absolutely.
What can we do? What are the solutions for those kids who can't get off it?
Well, most importantly, we will be discussing solutions for all ages. is that there are solutions for all ages. There are happy endings. There are good days. There are wonderful things that you can do with your life. There are things there are groups that you can join. You can join a volleyball team, even though you're older than when you played in high school.
Right. Hang on, Terry. That's what we're going to do. We're joining a volleyball team. There you go.
Mahjong. You can learn a game. You can.
But Deb, I think the very real issue you're talking about is how are we going to break the cycle with the young people who are coming up and being raised addicted to telephones, addicted to their screens. And I think just like we incorporated PE into schools because kids were not having enough physical activity, already schools are incorporating mindfulness, breath work. All of those things are to challenge that addiction and that agitation that happens for these kids coming off the phone. So learning how to deal with their anxiety and making that a natural part of their day is going to be part of our solution down the road for our young people and raising a generation that is not anxious, that is feeling connected to their body, their soul, their sense of self. So those are very real things that are happening right now in elementary schools.
And no blame, no shame. They're aware of their mental health and it's part of their vernacular. And that's important.
You mentioned volleyball, or I mentioned volleyball. We mentioned Mahjong. Let's not forget fun, because off camera we were talking about that, right? Okay, when was the last time we all played bingo? Bingo became sort of one of those obsolete, goofy things. Well, you tell me if it's not fun to go play some bingo and just watch your little card fill up, right? Little fun, silly games. My oldest son loves to play games, and I'm not talking video, I'm talking games. And when he comes to visit, he's got bags full of them. And we actually stay up late at night.
Family game night is so important.
Please bring back the simple things in life. Go to your local park and look at a duck. I know it might sound ridiculous, but people aren't doing that anymore. I'm sorry.
It's not ridiculous. That's the thing.
No.
The things
and it's attainable for everyone.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. It's free. It's attainable for all.
Yep.
Fun. Just bring back
people playing chess in the park.
Yeah.
There's friends to be had. There's people to meet.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
That's what I like to say to people. You can hopefully go walk up and down the block. You don't have to go far. Go to the park. If there's one nearby, go buy a game. There's checkers. It doesn't have to be complicated. Checkers, bingo, whatever. And I agree. Try to reach out to a neighbor, a friend, anybody. That's the hard part. It's actually been hard for me. So I'm going to assume that people, as they're getting older, it's hard for them too. So it is all ages. And I like that you're going to be addressing that at the summit. Is there anything you want to make sure that my audience understands about, actually about the two of you? If you can briefly give us a synopsis. I know that.
Before we do that, there's two things I'd like to bring up. One is that in social media, there are wonderful people that are doing incredible things about mental health on social media. Poppy Jamie has a podcast, Happy Not Perfect. There are so many people that have podcasts to reach out to people so that you can have a community online so that they can reach out, they can get some self-satisfaction knowing that they're headed in the right direction or talking to the right people or get some reassuring guidance. And Poppy's just one of them, but there are many people doing wonderful things online that you can look up the positive aspects of technology as well. It's not just all horrible.
Yeah.
No, which leads me to what I said earlier. You know, pick and choose what you put on there and teach our kids to do the same thing. If somebody's not making you feel so good, why are you on there? Now,
there you go. You just said
exactly.
If it's not making you feel good, like that's even with Instagram. If it's not making you feel good, stop
or block them. You can do that.
No, really. You can. No, I agree. But it's easier to say. It's harder to do when you're a kid. When you have to go to school and you see these people next to you and you think, oh gosh, am I worthy? We have to get past that thinking. Yeah. Again, I'm not a professional, so I don't know how to do that. Well, how do we get past the thinking of, yes, you are worthy. You certainly are.
You are worthy. And you are worthy for somebody to take their time to talk to you and help you. You are worthy. That's the most important thing, Deb. The other thing I wanted to bring up, which we haven't brought up yet, one of the things that our money is going to is, and it was born from the pandemic, is we have these homeless vans. They are medical vans. Homeless health vans. Excuse me.
Homeless
healthcare vans.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
It is homeless healthcare that goes out to the community. And we have 4 right now. And they go to all sections of Los Angeles to bring you the help and psychiatry that you may need and can't go to a hospital, can't go to a doctor to get the help because you're homeless. So you need your foot sewn up, they'll sew up your foot. You need a psychiatrist, they'll talk to you. You need to go to a hospital and be admitted, they'll take you. And we have 4 vans.
Oh, wow.
That UCLA, you'll see the vans that have the UCLA logo, and they go all around Los Angeles to help at the homeless encampments.
Yeah, we're hoping that through this, through our event also, we'll be able to raise some money to get maybe another van out there, which would be terrific.
Or 2 or 3.
Or 2 or 3 or 5. You know, funny, I was driving back from the Dodger game last night, and it's almost every corner that we turn are homeless. And I have no solution because it's complicated. The drugs, the mental health, there's many issues going on. But my heart bleeds because they also don't, they shouldn't be there. People shouldn't be there. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for caring enough to have a program where you have these mobile vans that go throughout the city and help these people. That's so important. Thank you. So yes, every donation goes also toward that, to help the people that so many of us don't know how to help them. I want to also address who you both are. Terry, you are a former studio executive. You were VP with Columbia Pictures. You then turned to philanthropy. Cece, the daughter of Holocaust survivors. And since you were a little girl, you sort of had your own stuff that you were dealing with and have overcome and worked very hard. And here you are now, both of you teaming up together to do the good work. Again, if you could give a shout out to the work that you're doing and the facility so people know, I want them to be a part of this. And if they can't come in May to the event, for all I know, it's sold out already. This will also be something they can access online.
Almost sold out.
It is almost sold out.
It is almost sold out.
Yeah.
Right. But if somehow
that doesn't mean you can't donate, and that doesn't mean there aren't a couple tickets left.
Yeah.
That's right. And it also doesn't mean that you can't watch online and understand what you're doing once it's available and donate. So I want to go through that one more time before we let you go, please.
Yes. So you can make donations to the WOW website.
Yes.
Which will
give to you so you can put up on your website.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And that's ongoing. The money that's going to be raised even after the event is going to go to those vans, go to the research. It doesn't just stop at WOW. That's one moment at a time, but we need the funds raised. Look, at UCLA is a leader in our city in trying to help this mental health crisis. And I think that you can be assured, whoever you are out in the world, that money is being used in a very effective, meaningful, important way for our whole city. As a public university, the goal is and the mission is to help the whole community.
Yes, because whole health includes mental health. And that's not just the health of your personal being, but it's your family, it's your friends, it's your entire community, it's your town.
Yeah, and I like to say, reach out to somebody, people, because especially people who look like they might have it all together. You'd be surprised, just reach out.
We all look like we have it all together.
Right? Oh, I don't know if I do, but my point is, but you're right. We all sort of look like we've got it all going on, but very often people don't. Go out for a cup of coffee, go for a walk, go do something. Reach out.
Be nice. You never know what somebody's going through.
Kindness.
No.
Kindness is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. I very, very much look forward to attending the event, and I very, very much look forward to spreading the word of the good work you're doing. It's critical. We need to do this, not just for our children, for ourselves, for our grandchildren, for our neighbors, for everybody. So
thank you for the good work that you do. You're doing extraordinary work yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're part of the solution, and thank you.
Yes.
That's what
we work together, right? Every little piece, it just helps. So
let's all be part of the solution.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So Terry, Hyman Hamermesh, and Cecelia Feiler, thank you so much for joining us again. Wow. Right? Look up the website. Wow. Look at the work they're doing, I should say. And also, I think it's critical, the new hospital that's being developed and that should be open in a couple of years.
Yeah.
That
2026.
is 2026. So that is really something that we need. So thank you so much. The money also goes toward treatment. And if you or anyone you know is experiencing any sort of mental health crisis, ladies, please tell them, where should they reach out?
Well, a couple places. Obviously, they can call UCLA and the Resnick Hospital. I'm going to put also out that, Didi Hirsch has a suicide line, and they have very well trained professionals, and they're local. I would say reach out to your religious centers if that's where you feel the safest, or reach out to a friend. But you can make that call to UCLA Resnick Hospital. You can make the call to Didi Hirsch. There are other community centers that have free mental health counseling. Some of our community free clinics have trained therapists there that are really helpful. Don't be scared to ask for help. That's really the biggest thing.
We're all in this together, and we're behind you 100%.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. And thank you for joining our show. Deborah Kobylt Live, you can find on YouTube, on Facebook, and then on Instagram. And then in the audio version, it's on iHeartRadio. We're on Amazon. We're on just about Apple Podcasts. Anywhere where you get your audio podcasts, find us. If you put in our name, Deborah Kobylt Live, and your video as well, video podcast, put it in, we will be popping up. And we're going to be pushing this show out. We think it's really important. We're glad we got the opportunity, thank you, to do this before the event. Please pick up your tickets. Not quite sold out yet. And there's also an opportunity to donate. So please do that as well.
And
thank you all for joining.
It's Oprah.
Okay, you guys, you're going to find me sneaking backstage because I have just got to. Oh, no, I'm being silly. But what a beautiful lineup. And thank you, Oprah, for donating your time to do this because I know she believes in it. And the entire.
And Vivek Murthy. And for the Surgeon General to come and grace us with his intelligence and his presence is amazing. And
we're honoring, we did not mention this. If
we're
still on.
Oh, most importantly,
we're honoring Peter and Andrea Roth. Peter Roth ran Warner Brother TV for
30 or 35 years. And he is a leader in the community for mental health.
So,
and Andrea Roth is on our Resnick board, and they are both tremendous leaders and truly champions of change.
Yeah.
They are. I look forward to meeting them as well. And congratulations to them. Thank you so much for all they do, for all that they believe in, and, have been donating to this cause. It's very, very important. So, yes, a big shout out to them and congratulations to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So, again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we very much look forward to seeing you at the event, post-event, and please do donate. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.